Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Atea. I am the Director of Guided Personal Supports and Community Resources here at Northeast ARC. We have a great event today on pre-employment transition services from school to work, exploring employment options for transition-aged youth. Before we jump right into it, I'll just do a quick rundown of today's agenda. The Community Resource Center, it consists of 5 specialists within the Northeast region in each area office of DDS. So we have Carrie Neenan from the North Shore area office. We have Mary Rothstein from the Metro North area. We have Holly Keene from the Lowell area, Chris Marchese from Merrimack Valley, and Amy Richards from Central Middlesex. Our community resource specialists provide those community resources for the people within within their areas of the Northeast region, and they also created the Northeast Transition Collaborative Network. So our network was created in a response to over 265 school districts responding to a question that we asked about what is missing, and they said that they're for transition services, and they said that there's not a lot of opportunities for professional development or any resources or information regarding the transition process. So the Community Resource Center created the Northeast Transition Collaborative Network. So in NTCN, our goal is to unify resources, provide trainings, and create a collaborative space for everyone involved in the person-centered transition process, from adult services to within the Northeast region of Massachusetts. We host monthly webinars on topics around transition and adult services and opportunities in the community, as well as resources. We provide resource guides after each webinar and event that we host on that specific topic. We host quarterly in-person professional developments for educators to give them those skills around the IEP or other topics regarding transition. And in December of 2025, we were approved by DESE to become a PDP provider for Massachusetts. So for our webinars and in-person professional developments, educators are able to claim professional development points towards licensure. So if you are here today looking to claim PDP, we have a couple guidelines around that we will send out in a post email. Attending the entirety of today's session and completing any follow-up documentation or forms that we have. The Northeast Transition Collaborative Network started in March of 2025, and since then we've grown to over 1,000 members. That consists of educators, service providers, families, and individuals all around the Northeast region of Massachusetts, and we are expanding. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenters. We have Kathleen Pignoni from Massability. She's a transition specialist. And we have Steve Michelson from the Northeast Independent Living Program, or NILP. They're going to be talking about these services today. And I will now hand it over to Kathleen.
This is Kathleen. Can everyone see and hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
All right. I'm 2 for 2. Good morning. Thank you all for joining. It looks like we have a nice big crowd. As Matthew said, I'm a transition specialist by trade, voc rehab counselor, CRC, and I'm one of the 2 supervisors at the Massability Lowell office. So I'm going to talk in broader strokes about PREETs and kind of what it is and conceptually. I don't want to jump the shark, but I know that a lot of people have heard that it's changing. We have a new request for proposals to kind of improve our PREET services and expand them and do more of walking the walk and less talking the talk. So that's the goal. So I'm going to talk kind of broadly what it is. I can give you conceptually kind of what the new ideas are. We haven't received proposal. They haven't been approved yet. So it's new, but it's exciting. And sometimes at this state we don't have lots of new exciting things, so that's good. And then Steve's going to talk kind of more specific about what it actually looks like when one of our contracted agencies like NILP is doing the work. Um, so off we go. This is just our mission. It's always good to kind of start with the basics. We are um, here to kind of improve everyone's ability to work and be productive and be as independent as they can. The pre-ETS program, works with young adults from 14 to 22. So we're really trying to do a lot of exposure and kind of getting those young adults ready to enter the world of work and be a part of that world. So the goal is that it's 14 to 21 up till their 22nd birthday. So just like all you special educators out there know, one of the things that sometimes people forget is we typically work with high school students. If your young adult is in any sort of post-secondary ed or training and they're not 22, they are still eligible for these pre-ed services. So that's kind of one of the things that we feel like we haven't done as good a job at the state is reaching all of those students. So we just want to make sure that everybody um, knows that it's this range of students. We fund 32 providers throughout the state. As you will hear from Steve, he's one of our stars. They do an excellent job in our area supporting this population. And what we do is, as the state, we fund, like we get federal and state money to fund pre-ETs. So then we contract with providers. They'll hit all these 5 pillars that you'll see me go over. And what we've done in the past is we have had each school have a provider that works with them. And that was kind of our way of trying to get everybody connected. You had a primary person. The new way is that you can kind of you don't have to be attached to the school. So the nice thing about that is that some of our young adults who go to special ed private schools or other kinds of schools that aren't a public school, it's going to be a little bit easier for them to access it. As you all know, this is not to duplicate the transition and special ed services that are provided. So sometimes, I think what we were finding across the state is that being in the school, sometimes that's a fine line. And we want to make sure that that this service is for all young adults with any disability. They don't have to be on an IEP. They could be on a 504. They don't have to be in a sub-separate class. It doesn't have to be in the physical school. So we're trying to kind of make sure we're reaching more young adults. The core components, for those who are not familiar, and Steve will go into more detail about kind of what this looks like. Job exploration counseling. And this is really that basic exposure activity. What kinds of jobs are out there? We know, you talk to freshmen, they probably can't even look around. I shouldn't say. They may not be able to look around in the building, even identify all the jobs that are in that building, but they can tell you the jobs that they've been exposed to. But we want them to see the range of what's out there and what's available to them. Work readiness training is, I would say, traditionally what the bulk of what people have seen pre-ETs cover. Job getting skills, applications, resumes, interviewing skills, dressing for success, social communication skills, soft skills, all that kinds of stuff. Work-based learning experiences. This is where we're asking our vendors to try to be a little more creative, and we're giving them more creative license to expand this. This has been, I would say, from the participants, the young adults, the parents, the schools, everyone's perspective, that this is one of the most impactful ways to reach young adults is actually getting them to be hands-on in a work-based learning experience. One of the best things I found out is what they don't like to do, which is really important. So we are, kind of allowing pre-eds providers to be more creative and flexible and maybe do kind of summer exposure activities where, you know, they're getting support from us around getting out in the community more and having these experiences. And then the last, no, second to last one is counseling on post-secondary education and training. Obviously, you know, there are career ladders. We just don't want young adults to know like your first job may not be your last job. I always, when I worked in a high school, we used to say ABC, a job leads to a better job, which leads to a career. So in order to get those careers, you may be interested or need post secondary education and training. So again, schools,
Hi, Camilo.
oh, hello,
Join the meeting.
sorry, just hit my stop share for some reason. Don't mind me. Am I back? Sorry about that. Schools, I know address this as well, but again, if there are, you know, young adults who maybe the school doesn't have the staffing to go visit a college campus, like that's something that pre-ed providers have been able to do. And the last one is self-advocacy. I'm sure in schools you're talking a lot about this. We talk a lot about this at Mass Ability. This is kind of how do you become independent? One of the preconceived notions is I turn 18 and I have to be on my own, and so we talk a lot about interdependence and self-advocacy. Asking for help is an independent living skill. Asking to be to use resources in your community that are available to all of us that we all use is being independent. And how do you do that? You learn how to use your voice and what are your choices. So this is a big piece of what a lot of the providers um, do a lot of work on. So one of the things we want parents to know is kind of how does my son or daughter or child get involved in this? And again, with this new way of doing things, um, we we're trying to make it more accessible. And so in the past, typically you had somebody attached at your high school that was your pre-eds person, and that pre-eds person was attached to say NILP and then got to Steve. Um, I think the biggest thing that I want parents to hear is that you can access these pre-employment training resources without a direct referral to Mass Ability. So though we pay for and fund it, you do not need to be a Mass Ability participant or a career services participant, as we now say, to receive these services. And in fact, it makes a lot more sense to be getting these services. And then when you're closer to graduation, junior, senior year, or those 18 to 22 years as you're getting closer, then put in the direct referral for Mass Ability. So I guess guide for parents is more kind of general here, but logistically, I think what parents need to know is that what you're going to do is you're going to do a direct referral to a vendor that's offering these services. So Steve will kind of talk a little bit more about logistics for that. How can schools help? What we do in the Lowell office is every school that's in our region, we have a counselor that's associated with that school. So direct communication with the office. You can always, I have my contact information at the end. You can always, if you're not sure who your person is or who your counselor is or who's attached to your school, parents, educators, you can always just reach out to our office and you can reach out to me. Um, we do we do appreciate that transition is a very broad umbrella and everyone's has an IEP, which means their transition service are individualized to them. So pre-ETS is really the goal of it is to be an additional resource. It's not to replace or you know critique or say this school isn't doing. Maybe there's a group of students that are, not getting access to this for whatever reason. Maybe their teacher wasn't aware of it, or the guidance counselor didn't know about it because they're doing, 14 other things that are part of their job. So just know that as schools, you can always reach out to Massability and ask as many questions as you want around this. And there may be more questions as we are changing as well. What students can expect. Younger students, it's really exposure activities, like I said, career interest inventories, talking about different kinds of jobs, those types of activities, job shadows. 16 to 21, you're definitely want to be kind of working with your pre-eds provider, seeing, those job seeking skills. A lot of young adults may or may not want to be working part-time jobs, just learning those work skills that are really important. And then, turning 22, we always recommend that the young adults get their referral to Massability, within like that last year. The great thing about Massability that's different than some of the other state agencies is that you can pretty easily move in and out of our services. So, for example, if you have a 20-year-old student or child, young adult, and you refer them to us and they're not ready for employment, but they need some other services. They might need more pre-eds. They might need some education, some life skills. You can meet with your counselor. You can say, okay, this was a really good idea. We now kind of understand. We'll come back in a year when they're closer to graduation. Like it's the online application. We have the 688. You can always refer to us through the 688, but it's not necessary. And our agency is employment focused, competitive employment focused, which is important. There's a lot of talk around supported employment. That is not something that we focus on. A lot of the other adult agencies, DDS, DMH, they follow that person through their lifespan in all areas. So you can receive Massability services right alongside with DDS and DMH. So one does not beget the other, but you can do both. It's if there's some people get nervous about, oh, do I have to, if my 688 goes to DDS, can I not work with Massability? Absolutely not. We have really clear partnerships with those agencies and we work together. We share offices with them. So one plug just kind of for career services that is kind of that career services after pre-ETS. It's we still can work on those 5 pillars, but the goal is competitive employment, whatever that looks like for that person. So sometimes we do benefits counseling if people are getting SSI. Sometimes we help figure out training and post-secondary resources. The application, like I said, is pretty straightforward. You go online, you fill it out. We now have 2 options. One is you can choose to speak to someone and they'll ask you kind of some more detailed questions around your functional behaviors that may be barriers to employment. Or if you or the young adult wants to fill that in yourself and upload documents, that's another option. We're trying to expedite it so that people aren't waiting. I think I don't want to take too much time. I don't know how long that took me, but I'm happy to take questions now, or if I'll let you guys decide how you want to do it. But I'm gonna stop my share for a minute and pull up Steve's PowerPoint.
Yeah. Kathleen, thank you so much for that presentation. Very informative and helpful. We're going to save the Q&A for after Steve's presentation. It looks like we do have a question. We did have a hand raise. if you don't mind putting that question in the chat, we're going to go through Steve's presentation with NILP first, and then we'll get to all questions for Kathleen and Steve right after. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thanks for sharing it for me. Um, I appreciate the invitation to chat a little bit about NLP and the services that we have within the Youth Services Program. As mentioned before, I am the Youth Services Program Manager for YSP at NLP. Our main office is located in Lawrence, Mass. I see a couple familiar faces in here. Richard Rodriguez, Olivia Bliss, Madison Burns. It's really great to see some familiar faces. So let's get to talk a little bit about our services. I know that the main focus is pre-ets, and we will talk about it, but there are other scopes of services that we have that might resonate with some of you here today. So I felt it was important to chat a little bit about them. All right, next. NALP is one of 10 independent living centers in Massachusetts. We serve residents living in Essex County, Middlesex County, and the Boston area. We are a peer-run independent living center providing advocacy and services to people with any and all disabilities who wish to move independently in the community. NALP services are consumer-directed. And NALP's vision is we are a community of people who open doors to create an all-inclusive environment free of communication, attitudinal, economic, and architectural barriers for all people with disabilities. NLP's five core services consist of information and referral, advocacy, skills training, peer counseling, and transitions. All right, so YSP this is sort of everything that we do. We have our TAP, which is our Transition to Adulthood program. We have PREETS, our Pre-Employment Transition Services, which will be the main focus today. And we have a new program that I had the opportunity to write for. There was available money. I was able to write for a program called the YES program, so the Young Adult Empowerment Support Program. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is as well. So let's talk about transition to adulthood program. So this is for high school students ages 14 to 22 with an IEP or 504 plan. This is a large focus on in-school independent living um, transition planning, so one-on-one work. We also have groups as well. TAP has a heavy focus on establishing goals and objectives with students. So what we do with this program is my staff meet with students within the classroom or outside the classroom, one-on-one to establish independent living goals, utilizing something called the TAP action plan. What that is sort of just a breakdown of the goals that they want to work on. And there's no right or wrong goal here. It's really kind of participant driven. We've had students that want to be able to tie their shoes independently, and we've written objectives to meet those goals. And we've had students that wanted to get their driver's permit, and we were able to go ahead and write a goal for that and break down it into objectives. So it's really just about what they want to do with a focus on independent living. TAP also provides, oh, sorry, let's go back real quick, Kathleen. Apologies. TAP also provides the Power Project, which is a 4-week summer program that are free to students who attend. We also have our very, very popular Massachusetts Driver's Manual training, which was featured on WBZ News last year. We had our own segment. It was pretty sweet. This is a 4-day training held during February to April vacation. April's is next week. It is an in-person and Zoom option for the training. If individuals do decide to join in person, they get the course of training as well as utilizing our driving simulators. So we have 2 driving simulators where students get to practice all the real feels of driving, but in a safe environment. So if they do end up maybe crashing in a fender bender, they're in a safe spot, and we can kind of talk and work on those sort of real life situations. We also have monthly workshops at our Lawrence office that really don't really focus too much on independent living skills, but more so outside the scope of that stuff, relationships, video game tournaments, just sort of outside the normal realm of stuff that we do with transition, just to keep it, a lot of socialization is obviously very important for our participants. All right, so pre-ETS, which is for our pre-employment transition services, which is what you all are here for. Again, this is for high school students or post-secondary students ages 14 to 22 with an IEP or 504 plan. And its main focus is to enhance work readiness skills, to connect to peers, and career exploration. The services offered through this contract are workplace readiness training, job exploration counseling, work-based learning experience, self-advocacy and peer mentoring, and counseling on post-secondary education and training. The really great piece of this contract is the possibility of paid internships. As we know, money's a motivator for the participants. A lot of students are really motivated to work. There's a lot of skills that involve working. Right now, we have 30 internships right now being paid biweekly. And these students are working in different areas. I'm just going to throw out a couple examples. We have students working at Kids Club, early education centers in Andover, Open Hands Food Pantry in Haverhill, the MSPCA in Methuen, the NECC Mailroom and Library in Haverhill, the Lawrence General Hospital in Lawrence, Franklin Library, the People's Pantry. So it's just a wide variety of spots that students are participating in these internships. And what we try to make unique to this, and I'm not sure how other agencies are doing it, but students have to submit their timesheets electronically. Sort of like if you used ADP, a lot of folks use ADP. Students have access to a link. They are responsible for filling out that timesheet. They submit it with their weekly timesheets. It comes to me, I review, sign it, and send it over to my finance department to cut a check. This is a lesson in itself, and that's what pre-ets is all about, is just teaching those little lessons about responsibility. If you don't submit your timesheet, you don't get paid. So there's consequences for actions when you're not being responsible. Every student also receives a free account to Pathful, which is a career services website that really kind of allows students to look at different education options, post-secondary options, and careers. It gives them a real deep breakdown. We're allowed to do lesson plans on there. We utilize it for a lot of public speakers that can speak to certain careers. And each student that participates in our pre-employment transition services gets that account for free. So it's really helpful for them. They can access it anytime they want. And we can set lesson plans to that as well. Um, on top of that, what's brand new this year is we were able to create a organizational app that is free to all our students. It's an app that we created through a website called Assistive Flow. And what we've really noticed is that a lot of students struggle with organization, and that's a key piece of independent living. And so what this does is it's a free app. A lot of these apps that you find on iPhone or Android stores cost money. And that's not something that we wanted the students to have to worry about. So what we did was came up with the idea to have an app. It tracks their daily tasks, work schedule. It looks at their you can put in your medication schedule in there. You could add a grocery shopping list that calculates how much you're spending, so it keeps track of all that. So something super cool that we were able to add this year that just again further supports students in their independence. Um, and then brand new this year was our YES program. So YES provides services for young adults with disabilities ages 22 to 34 in three key areas of independent living, employment, employment, transportation, and activities of daily living. Um, so we want, so what it is for students 22 to 34. Kim, who is our young adult empowerment specialist, works individually with each young adult on the key core component that they chose during their intake process. And if they chose employment, our hope is that they gain meaningful employment by guiding them through every step of the process, from resume building and interview preparation to job placement and on-the-job success. If an individual chose transportation, it's focusing on developing safe and confident travel skills through driving preparation, public transit use, ride-sharing options, and overall community mobility. Or if activities of daily living is something that the young adult would like to focus on, it's focuses on strengthening your independence through training in daily living skills such as budgeting, meal prep, household management, and personal organization. Um, Kathleen, can you go back to Priyats real quick? Because I did want to talk a little bit more about Priyats as I kind of didn't really touch base on it. Um, we are in high schools and we are running, right now we're in a little over 24 different high schools. It ranges, some have ended, some are starting again new. Um, and we're in classrooms right now for 45 minutes to an hour working on these core services that are broken down into a curriculum. Our curriculum have talking points for each piece of the curriculum, and then everything has an activity. The way we want this curriculum to feel is not so much that you're in another classroom setting where there's just a lot of talking points. We want kids that engaged, up and moving, and being working collaboratively together on certain things. So I wanted to put that out there before I kind of went over it. That's a huge piece of what we do with the pre-eds program. We're in classroom settings, after school settings as well, just if it doesn't work for the school schedule. But as Kathleen has touched, how this looks is going to be changing with this new OFR. How exactly that is, it'll be more defined once contracts are sent out. But the core concept of what we do with pre-eds is going to remain the same. I think that was everything, but you can go next. That was it. Yeah. So if you have questions afterwards, I'm more than happy to help. You can also email or check out our website. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. At this time, Carrie Neenan, our community resource specialist, is going to facilitate Q&A. So we're going to spotlight our presenters and Carrie, and we will get to answering some of those questions.
All right, thank you, Stephen and Kathleen. That was great. We do have some questions in the chat, so if people have additional questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat or raise your hand if it's easier to come off of mute and ask in person. I'm just going to get to a couple questions that showed up in the chat first. I do see there's at least one or two raised hands too. One of the questions was about children who are in college or if they graduated at 18 and are now in college, would pre-ed services or mass ability services be available to those people?
This is Kathleen. I can answer that. Yes, to both, actually. So if it's kind of depending on the individual, but if it's somebody who's in school full time and they want and haven't had a lot of experience with work, then pre-ets might be the right option, and they can do that directly to the vendor. Or you can always do a referral to our agency, and as a participant, we can write a contract for pre-ed so that, I would absolutely say it's applicable for both, depending on the individual.
So they could go to Mass Ability or the Independent Living Center, either one?
Yep.
Great. One other question that came up was for people who have students in Catholic schools or homeschooling, is it kind of the same answer there where they can go direct to Mass Ability or the Independent Living Center?
Yes.
Okay. Um, and someone else asked if a school district is not engaging with mass ability, can a family connect their transition age student without the school?
100% yes.
Okay, great. So it sounds like it can be really driven by the school or driven by the parents themselves. So that's great. That's good information now.
Mhm.
I want to jump in. A lot of the connections that we do get come from parents that heard that their student is friends with another student from a different school and said, "Hey, this isn't happening here. How do we get it?" And that really does get the ball rolling. So if it's not happening at your school, reach out and we can make it happen.
Great. Heather Driscoll, you have your hand raised. Do you want to come off mute?
Yes, my name is Alice Morris. Heather was here with me, and this was her computer, and then she had to scoot out. But I work at Gloucester High School, and we are trying to figure out. It sounded like Kathleen, when you were doing your presentation, it sounded like Prietz was still going to be in schools, but we've been told by our area office it's not going to be in schools. So I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. So the goal for the new Priets is to take it physically out of the schools, meaning, whereas Steve and some of his staff would go in during school hours, the focus is now to do after school, weekends, summers, those kinds of things. So I think your area off, I didn't mean to mislead you.
No, it sounds accurate. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like what they said too. We're very bummed out about it, actually. We
Um,
have them come every week, and it's and for all the different ages. So, and then I have a question for Steve as well. So, if I have a student who's struggling with getting his driver's permit, but we're in Gloucester and our vendor that the students use is viability, is that something, is the mass driver support still something that you can do for a student in Gloucester?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. They could jump in on our Zoom course. It just takes them connecting with us, completing an intake, but that doesn't change any sort of support from their current vendor, because it's through TAP,
Okay.
funded at least, so they can
And is
absolutely
that, if
participate.
I go to the website, is that a pretty obvious way? Like it'll have like driver's ed support somewhere.
I haven't checked the website in a while, but I believe so. But if you send me over an email at some point, or I can put my email in here.
Yeah, if
You
you don't
can just
mind.
shoot, yeah, if you want to connect, we can,
Great.
and I can get you information on that.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
So anyone can join those driving programs.
Anyone can join as long as they're 14 to 22 and identify with a disability
Great.
and are willing to fill out the intake, which is pretty quick and easy. We've made it even easier. We do the intake online, so you don't even need the paper copy. We just submit it. Spots do get filled up quick, so I say the earlier the better, because our office can only support like 10 in person. We can have a bazillion online. That's not a problem at all. So the in person gets filled up really quickly.
And how many hours a day is it over vacation?
So typically it falls on the Tuesday every February because we have that first day, that Monday off for there's whatever varying stuff there is. And it's 9 to 12 in person, 10 to 12 on Zoom.
Oh, okay. So it's just the one day.
Oh no, sorry. No, no, 4 days.
Okay,
I
great. Thank
apologize.
you. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Great. And we have, so you, Stephen, from one independent living center in the state. Obviously, there's multiple. Do different independent living centers kind of do the same types of programs, or do you see a lot of variance in what different groups offer?
There's definitely some variance. I've heard of one other that does sort of what we do with the Massachusetts driver's manual training, is in regards to how they do their pre-ets or TAP programming. I don't know if they're similar. I know some folks do it a little different in every other spot. Um, yeah.
Okay, but there's not like specific curriculum type guidance that you all follow. Okay.
No. I mean, there are definitely opportunities where we will work with each other to say, hey, what are you doing here? It might work over here for us. We've definitely had those opportunities, but there isn't like one set curriculum that we're all following. The curriculum that we created is something that we did on our own, yeah, our
Mm.
own accord.
Uh, may I jump in on that? I'm actually on a committee right now where we are trying to do exactly that, find curriculum resources for the pre-ETS providers and allowing them to spend their pre-ETS money on kind of some of these opportunities. Um, just from my experience, there's not a lot out there that do this. And I know as educators, most of us we pull from different things anyway. But just so people know that that is something as part of this new RFR, sorry, that we are funding as the state is to you know the membership, the subscription that you were talking about, Steve, like making those kinds of resources available across the state, not just, dependent on one pre-eds provider providing that. And that we're not going to mandate that they use them, but what we're trying to do is kind of gather resources and give them a menu of options, just letting them know this is what we found. And so we're previewing them right now. So that is something that we're trying to support.
Do you have
Uh,
any examples? Someone was actually asking if you have any examples of curriculums to use for special ed teachers or transition coordinators, because one person said they're having trouble getting parents to sign consent forms for Massability and Triangle to come do the pre-ets at their school. So just wondering if you have any suggestions of like non-copyrighted curriculum that they can use or free resources.
Um, I can, I might be able to do that. I know we used to do like the free skills to pay the bills. Um, it's just a free kind of um resource that's more about like it's about money management, but it's about like independent living skills. Um, I can look and maybe throw some things in the chat. Um, what we were focused on ones that you can actually find to pay. But I can throw some resources in the chat because we do have a spreadsheet. So I will look at that.
Great. Yeah.
If there are providers in here that are struggling, I'm more than happy to meet via Zoom and they can pick my brain. I can't give away all our secrets, but I can definitely guide them in a way to, um, do some stuff that we do if they need it.
And someone else was asking if you can just kind of give some examples of companies that you've collaborated with as part of job placement services.
Yeah, so I went through a few of them, but a lot of them are, so like Mass Audubon Society in Topsfield. A lot of collaboration with schools. We're already there, so keeping that connection is pretty important. We have a student at the Andover IT department in Andover, um, Behavioral District Court, a couple libraries. Libraries are pretty open to working with students. The big one was Lawrence General Hospital. We thought that was a fantastic opportunity, and we were very excited that they were open to allowing them to participate. A couple YMCA's. So we've had a lot of luck in farms as well.
Oh, awesome. That's fun. We have a couple other raised hands. April, you have a question?
Yes, I asked this in the chat, but so my students are deaf or hard of hearing. Do you guys provide services in American Sign Language and or would you be able to provide like an in-person interpreter?
So we had we did do that, yes. We had someone specifically hired to do that. Um, they had since moved on to a different position. So we haven't done it. If a school is really looking for these type of services, we can support it. It would just be about coordinating someone for translation or an interpreter. I apologize.
So
So it's
what a
definitely not. Go ahead.
so what about like if an individual, because I'm just thinking I have an individual student that lives near Lawrence and she might benefit from some of the programming. Um, and from my understanding, this is the first I've heard of you guys, so I'm assuming her parents haven't. If she were to attend some of the stuff there, you
We
guys
could
would
support her. Absolutely.
okay. Okay.
Okay. Helena, you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. So I work in a middle school, and typically what we do when kids are in eighth grade, we have very few, if any, seventh graders. But on the IEP, I start introducing the transition plan, and it's often pretty vague. A lot of kids are just coming to IEP meetings for the first time. They're often pretty nervous. So it tends to be just kind of like a standard fill out that we do introducing everything. And I let parents know that this will ramp up a little bit as the kids get older and move up into high school. However, I have a mom of a seventh grader who is very anxious about her daughter um, not getting into our local tech school. So I feel like if that doesn't happen, she may really want to starting services really in eighth grade next year. And I haven't had anyone really ask for this so young, so I'm not quite sure where to start or guide her. She's 13, so she will be 14 next year. Can Priyet start offering her? I know she's really looking for um, to see what type of things that her child might like to do. What would be like a good place to start early for an eighth grader? Because I have a feeling she really may want to start this before she gets into high school.
Well, I can chat a little bit, Kathleen. I I would just get the ball rolling with an introduction. I don't know if they live near, or are they in my catchment area, or are they further out?
Are you in Burlington?
No.
So
That's
who would I
that's
refer?
I would, regardless, whoever the provider is out there, I would start the connection now.
How
It's
do I
better
find
to
that?
start. Uh
I can
Kathleen might
answer
know
that.
that one.
It's Mass Higher out of Lowell.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, I don't want to promise something I can't give. So I think you absolutely can refer them. They are required to serve that person. My guess is that for somebody that is, that young, that it would be kind of an individualized, like, what is it that you want to learn, and kind of just some exposure activities, and maybe meeting with someone via Zoom. Um, just the very kind of beginning. Certainly, they can talk about career exploration and what kinds of things are out there, especially if they're interested in specific fields. Just even having somebody to meet with and talk about that.
Mom's already on board. Like we're kind of already have a goal of getting into nursing, which is, now with vocational schools having a lottery, it sort of changes people and people are getting a little nervous. So if I don't get the lottery and I don't get in one of these programs, like where am I going to go next? Her daughter's needs are unique. She has a neurological impairment, which is always like, what does that mean? And that's incredibly unique for every single kid. And so I think mom's just really fearful and wants to get on ahead of the game before, as opposed to behind it. And I want to be able to support her next year.
Yeah. I I think that there's absolutely, she can apply, she will get it. I think it just will be individualized to that person, because it's just not, we don't get a ton of 14-year-olds. So it's
Right.
not, there's no set curriculum. It will be looking at those kind of 5 pillars and, um,
Now,
individual.
applying means applying to Mass Ability or applying to Mass Hire.
Nope. So reaching out to Mass Hire and asking to apply for pre-ETS programming.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think there seems to be a lot of confusion and just questions about office locations and providers and things like that. Can you just kind of explain like whether they should contact the Massability office in their area or what the difference is between like the independent living center versus a provider like Triangle or someone? Just kind of explain those different pieces.
Yeah, I actually think somebody put in the chat the list of all the pre-ets. I think there should be a website, right? I'm trying to go through the chat, but long story short is that you can always call our office. What I'm finding kind of just with this group is that like Salem, we don't cover Salem, like they're Cape Ann. So I don't know those resources off the top of my head. They are listed statewide somewhere on that, on that website. So typically if your young person is, 14 to 16 and then, not getting ready to leave school within the next year or so, the pre-ets provider is typically the recommended resource. They have specific kind of activities around these 5 areas that are appropriate just developmentally and career development wise. If they've never been exposed to any of this, this is like the best place to start. Sometimes we'll have a young adult do pre-ets at 16, and then at 17, they're kind of like, well, I've already done that. Then maybe a direct referral to Massability does make sense. Again, it's hard for me as a supervisor. You can always apply to us. I just I don't want to kind of promise something that can't happen. So when you are a public school student, your primary resource for transition services is the public school. You are entitled, that is an entitlement program, right? So as a state agency, if you say, well, I'm going to Massability and I want transition from them, what we're going to say to you is, okay, whatever you're not getting from you have to go to your public school first. So that is kind of the fiscal reality of our state system that as a high school or like when you're in public education and you come to Massability, the majority of things that you may be looking for, we can't do because you're still in that public entitlement system. So just want to be kind of really clear about that. I don't think people kind of talk about it a lot because I think at Massability, we're like, come, we can help you. And we can, but it's limited. And I feel really strongly, as an advocate that's kind of setting up parents and schools and saying like Massability can meet all these needs and we can't until they kind of have left school. And then we'll get parents and young adults in and be like, why did I bother applying? You can't even help me. So I'm trying to kind of circumvent that, but also you can always apply and you meet with the counselor and you two decide, okay, this isn't the right time for this individual. We close your case and you can come back in a year. You can come back in 6 months. It's not like the other state agencies where you have to do this huge mound of paperwork, get in and you're in it for life. Like the other piece is that we're really employment focused. We have like NILP works with independent living skills. That's super broad. We work with competitive employment. So we have a broad area of things we can help with, but only as they relate to competitive employment. So for example, transportation. Oh, can my kid get driving lessons? We're not here to get your kid driving lessons unless they need to drive to get to their job, right? So it's those kind of nuanced things that when we're talking in broad groups and people ask these questions, I struggle with kind of being as transparent as I can around what we can and can't do. So I hope that comes across in the way I intend it, which means I'm just trying to be honest and open. We always want to help. We always want to be available. If you just don't know, you're going to get a copy of the slides. You can email me and I'm happy to. Part of my role as a supervisor is kind of to answer all these questions before you go through the whole process. So you're not confused about kind of what it is. So feel free to reach out to me directly too.
Great. Heather, you have another question?
Sorry, I couldn't get the mute undone. So for NILP for the services, the students sign the youth services program intake form.
To attend the Massachusetts Driver's Manual training?
Yeah, that's the only thing I could find for
That
an
would be the intake. Correct.
that's the form that
Yes.
they want to do, and somewhere in there they say they want to do driver's things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. All right,
All right.
thank you.
And oh, Helena put her hand up. There was one other just quick question in the chat. Someone was asking if someone lives in one city but is at a residential school in another city, which office would they go to? The one where the family lives, or the one where they're going to school?
Um, my my suggestion is kind of where you think you're going to land. Like, so if you're going to, especially now that pre-eds isn't really going to be in the schools so much, I would probably lean towards where you live. But for example, when it was in the schools, sometimes, Steve, NILP would be in a private special ed school and the kids would be in all different towns. If any way you can access is fine, but that would be my recommendation.
All right. I don't see any other questions. Anybody else have anything, any last minute questions? We're just about to 11:30 now, so.
Thank you for putting those resources in the chat. And then I didn't get to put curriculum ideas in. What's the best way to do that? Send that to you, Carrie, or you, Matthew, and
If you want to send it to us, we do have a resource guide that goes out to people. We did have some suggestions for tools related to job skills in there already. So if you have anything that we didn't have in there already, we can always add it. Or if you have, some kind of flyer or something like that with a list, we can attach that as well.
great, thank you. I just don't want to say I'm going to do something and not do it.
And just so everyone else knows, we do send out a post-program email, usually within 24 hours after this program, that'll have the recording, all of the slides, as well as our resource guide and upcoming events. So I'll turn it back over to Matt.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for that participation. Before you go, just a couple things. As Carrie mentioned, we will be sending a follow-up with our resource guide, event guide, the slides from today's presentation. So be on the lookout for that email coming in the next day or two. You'll also receive a link from today's webinar as well if you'd like to share it out with people that you know. We have a few upcoming events. Our next in-person professional development for educators is going to be on Tuesday, May 9th. We're hosting it at Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill. And we're going to be focusing on writing with purpose, a hands-on workshop for transition IEPs. We received a lot of feedback from our network, and we hear that educators are looking for more topics on the IEP and more hands-on application. So this will focus on multiple sessions throughout the day, focusing on the process of going through the IEP, writing the IEP for your students. So we'll be sending out registration for that hopefully by the end of this week, and you'll see more information in our follow-up email. And then for future webinars, I sent a link in the chat today for June 2026. We're doing a focus on exploring adult day supports. In July, we'll focus on financial and benefits planning. And in August, healthy relationships and boundaries. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email the Community Resource Center at ne-arc.org. All of our resources today, as we mentioned, will be shared. You could also find them on ecommunityconnections.org, which is our site where we're able to connect individuals and families with community resources. Our community resource specialists make sure to put events in there and other additional resources within the Northeast region. And that concludes today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you guys at the next one. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.